So in this video I want to talk to you about forgiveness. I had a really close friend of mine that wanted me to kind of share my ideas on this topic, so I have a few kind of bullet points that might be able to kind of decipher really what forgiveness is about and really what we can do about it. So first off, I think forgiveness is quite high up on the ladder for people to really take a grasp of. I think it's quite a tall order to simply forgive somebody, especially depending on the situation that you were in. So if you had really struggled with something or you were extremely hurt, I think it's sometimes just too much to ask to forgive. In all honesty, even I find it quite difficult to forgive people and what they've done, but I find that the easiest steps to kind of go through would first be to accept what happened. So really stage one is really talking about acceptance. It's accepting what happened. A lot of people can be in denial in life, particularly the person that may have, let's say, scorned you or hurt you. So to really be able to see the situation at hand, it's to accept what happened without having too much passion with it. You've got to kind of take it more like a business proposal and take the heat and the passion and the emotion, kind of just see the facts, lay out the facts to you. So, if something happened 10 years ago and it happened in Birmingham, those are just concrete facts that you would put in history. And then what happened afterwards on how you felt or how they dealt with it, it is still your perception on it. They say that with memories, we actually have a very skewed or biased way, the way that we actually look back at things. So although, I don't know, as a childhood you may have experienced something and really thought that one thing had completely happened and that this is what happened and this was the truth, and you'll find out that maybe your sibling and your parents would have told you years later that didn't happen, and you'll soon kind of figure out that you can really believe in, what I hate to say, not lies, but maybe in things that are really down to perception. So it's how you've perceived it, and sometimes the way that we remember something, our brains really are efficient and they won't remember everything around us. It's also what you choose to believe in. So bear that in mind when you kind of look back at a situation where you have been hurt, and really try to get the concrete facts and take the emotion out of it. So first off, it's kind of not to be in denial. There is a lot of people that are in denial, and they either are angry at the person, they want to change the person, or they don't want to think about what happened, and that can also really mess with your healing process. You've got to accept the way that things are before you can even move on, and that's by looking at it really, I don't want to say like a stoic, but a very calm and clear headspace, and then you'd be able to see what you can do. Then from there, it's kind of being aware and figuring out an understanding about what the other person might have felt. I think it's very quick for a lot of us to jump to conclusions and believe that just the way that you're thinking, that you're right, and that you need to tell that person or make that person apologise. And a lot of the time, I think a lot of people get stressed because they're not in control. So when you're simply trying to control somebody else's feelings, or you want them to apologise, or even you want them to hear you out, or explain the problem to them so that you can either hurt them again. Simple things like that, it's giving up the power of your happiness. So let me take it down like a step. If your happiness or your acceptance of yourself is under the requirement of somebody to apologise to you, or for that person to change the way that you are, do you not think that the way by living life would have a lot of resistance? Because at the end, human beings are really creative, and we also remember a lot, kind of like an elephant, and it is hard to forgive and forget. But we take things really to heart and want to control a lot of things, particularly other people. Even if it's not other people, it's like surroundings or actions around us, and then we tend to resent what happens, and we either want to make changes or resolve them. A lot of it is effort and control outside of us, and that can really hurt you. I know it seems really like, how can I say it, like very long-winded to get around forgiveness, but you've got to remember that if it's a judgment that's required on you for someone to accept or for them to listen to you, whether forgiveness requires an action from somebody else, it's a very tough way to live, because there's a lot of things around us that we can't control. And just as an example, it's people probably as like parents to children will understand it more so, that you would obviously lead your child with the greatest intentions to guide them and to love them, and you will try to really make sure that they don't make any mistakes that you probably made, or like mistakes that, to the best of your knowledge, that you don't want them to make from your own experiences. But that also exerts some sort of control, and I think that's why during the adolescence, as well as a tougher time period when a child is growing up to being a teenager, to being a young adult, it can be extremely difficult. And I think adults get very stressed and very alienated from their kids, and their relationship with their daughter or son can be extremely difficult. But that's also the case of only being happy if your child does and says what you want. And I know that's like very like black and white. Obviously there's right and wrong things, like don't take drugs and don't stay out too late, but it really goes the same as for people that encounter more situations. That really would entail, like I said, if somebody had hurt you and you're trying to get past it, you can't really have it set that they have to hear you out or they like you back. All that effort is pushed outside yourself when really the power is totally within. And I hate to sound really cliche, but I suppose like the emotional healing process would be that you've really got to look within yourself and realise that there's a lot of effort and time that's being put towards it, and that really just creates more negative chaos. Worrying about something doesn't actually solve it. I know that a lot of people tend to, but I see it differently. I think if you're like brainstorming or if you're in a meeting, it makes sense to, you know, jot things down. But if you're really just like up at night and you can't sleep, or the thoughts are kind of interrupting your daily routine, then it's not something that you've wanted, and really there's been like bad thoughts that have really hijacked your mind. That's not productive, and most of the time from that headspace you're not thinking straight, and you also won't be thinking what you're doing presently, meaning what you're doing at that current point. A lot of us do it. You can call it daydreaming, but I think a lot of us don't really daydream because that would insinuate like a positive thing. I think a lot of us actually have, I suppose, like day nightmares, if that's the thing, like daymares, I suppose. And that's like really the case. I think really in the beginning you don't want to deny anything, and then you want to go through to actually accept and see the facts and the situation for what it is, taking the emotion out. And then you need to kind of stop having so much effort and time with understanding that healing isn't outside of yourself and it is within, that you don't need that person to hear you out again, and nor do you need to write them a letter or whatever it might be that the situation had occurred. The forgiveness is actually on yourself and it's not on them. We say it's to forgive others, but it's to forgive yourself probably for making those decisions in the first place, and perhaps being quite, is regretful a word, just to regret your decisions. That's probably actually the root cause of a lot of people's issues, is they probably want to turn back time and change their actions for what it is. But you can always find solace in the fact that the person that you are today wouldn't have known what you did back then, And people always make the best decisions at the time when it happened. I don't believe anybody purposely hurts themselves. So I really think it's about focusing down on the fact that you did your best in the past. And the forgiveness really, like I said, it's a really tall order to forgive somebody that extremely hurt you, whether that's physically or emotionally. I mean, there is such things as being right and wrong lawfully. It's really to forgive yourself and to move on. Like, the best form of medicine is to kind of live life and to not really ponder and have your daymares where you think about things, get yourself aggravated, kind of go into like a negative chaos. You don't want that. And the way to kind of lean forward is to realise that your calmness and peace and happiness is always within you, and it's really our jobs to find that out. So I hope that really helped you, and I'll see you in the next video.